In the final video in my series on my Korg Volca rig, you're going to get to see and hear what it does when everything's turned on. I want to start by talking a little bit about how I use all of this gear and why I use it, and how I set it up to facilitate doing that. And then at the end, there's a couple kind of neat pieces of gear that I have here that may be unfamiliar to some people in the Volca community. I haven't seen them in many of the other videos, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's on the bottom shelf that I think is pretty neat. So the first thing to cover is really what I do with all these synths and gear. It's all improvised music. I don't write songs on these or compose or come up with patterns and try to remember them and stuff. I try to do something fun that sounds cool and record it so I can remember it and then do something different next time. So in order to do that, kind of the fundamental principle is you've got to initialize everything so that when you hit play, there's no sound. You have to kind of zero out. So on all the Volcas, I've saved memory location 1. I've just erased. I think I actually have. I don't think I've erased any of the other ones. Yeah, so you can hear I have all the other patches. I've just cleared pattern 1 on all the synths. Also on the key step, I had to clear sequence 1, which is actually kind of tricky to do. There's no clear sequence or delete sequence button like there is on the BeatStep Pro. On BeatStep Pro, you can do clear pattern, shift, and sequence step 1 clears the pattern, which is very helpful, but you don't have that. I think it's part of the design of this thing being an additive sequence. You can add to the sequence and remove things from the sequence. So what you do is you set it, you set the sequence number to the one you want, and you just hit the clear last over and over and over again till there's nothing in the pattern. You just have to do it by ear. So I've got the other, the other default sequences are still programmed in. I haven't done anything with them. I don't really use them, but on sequence 1, it's blank, and that's my kind of starting template. The other thing I do with respect to startup, which is really important mostly for the keys and the FM, is to make sure that some of the initial, what the heck is this thing doing? Is to make sure that the initial state of these two synths is set up correctly. The main reason there is I use the sequencers on these quite a bit. In addition to the sequencer on the key step, I actually do record directly into these. And since they both have the option to do the tempo division, I can actually get something like a 64-step sequencer, sort of, out of both of these. And I just want to make sure that I have that set up right away from the beginning. So you can see when I turn this on, I've got my LFO is in triangle with the trigger sync turned off because I really don't like that most of the time. I'm at quarter tempo, metronome is off, and I've got the tempo sync delay. I love tempo sync delay. You'll learn more about that. And I've got it in flux mode. And then I wish there was a flux mode over here. But poly mode, chorus on, arpeggiator on, quarter tempo, everything else turned off. So this is my initial state for these. I think the bass is basically, I think that's the default state of pattern 1. I don't know, maybe I should look into that a little better and set that to something. But there's nothing really offensive in those settings. The kick, or rather the beats doesn't have any such trouble. It's because it's all pretty much knob based, and the kick, I had to, since all of the knobs are part of the program, it's kind of annoying. You actually have to kind of set up something that you like as a bass with that one, which is not that big a deal. I don't think I had to do anything with the beat stuff. I think I might have had to clear some initial patches, but I think that one didn't give me any trouble right from the get-go. And I've already mentioned what I've had to do with the key step to make that work in this workflow. So now I can just kind of jump on here, hit play, and start doing something, adjust the tempo as I go, and not have to worry about any kind of baggage. And I'm just free to start. So moving on to the bottom shelf stuff here, with respect to that idea of getting started in an improvisational context, sometimes I start with a drum beat, and it's really simple. I have a drum beat and I can just layer on top of it, but sometimes I'll start with something that's not so rhythmic, like a drone, and I've got to find some rhythm in it. And there's a feature of this Mackie VLZ that I just discovered and I really love. I never knew it had it until just recently. But you'll see in some of the markings there's references to Alt 3.4. And so basically what you have on this is the main bus is a stereo bus, which you could think of the main 1-2 bus, and then there's an alternate bus, the 3.4 bus, another 2-channel or stereo bus. And what happens is when you push the mute button, it mutes it in the sense that it switches it from the one channel, from the one bus to the other. So instead of being on the 1-2 bus, it's on the 3.4 bus. And you can monitor the 3.4 bus from here. So when I want to do a drone, I can click something to be my metronome. Either I think I have the key step. I think I have this thing metronome set up to be coming off the drum. I don't even know if I have it enabled, but or whatever I need to be the metronome, whatever kind of rhythm thing I want to be the metronome, I can just route it to the other bus and I can hear it in my headphones. It doesn't come out of the mains. I can do something, I can create my drone pattern against that rhythm, and then I know that I've got something that's going to sync up well later on as I add to it. That's probably my favorite undiscovered or recently discovered new feature of the Mackie. Everything else about this mixer is really just great. It's got every kind of pro feature that you'd want, and for this synth kind of thing, it's a pretty decent size. I mean, it's pretty big, but it's got that preamps and stuff that you don't really need. But there's a bunch of channels on this, and it's pretty fully featured. I love that it has 2 sends because I have 2 effects that I love to use: delay and reverb. For the reverb with the Cathedral, I think I mentioned in the other video that I have kind of tasteful presets for some of these. So I'm going to just put on a little simple bass line here and route that through the reverb. And so you can hear it's got a nice sound, and I think that's not my preset. So here's my preset. Nice it's a pretty big hall reverb, but I like reverb. And then when I'm in here doing things, I can really kind of tweak this out. I can set the feedback really high and do some stuff with the pre-delay and make this thing kind of self-oscillate and just get it super noisy. And then when I've had enough, I just push this and it kind of just works itself out, which is a really nice escape button that I have. And so I just went through one day and I just put in a preset for each of these. That's a basic starting block of each of those types. If I don't want something so big, I can use the room reverb. Actually, that seems even bigger than the hall reverb for some reason. Maybe I should revisit these presets. The other effect that I use primarily is this Cusack Tappa delay. And like I mentioned in the other video, I've got something pretty cool set up here. I've got the audio out, I said audio out last time too, the clock out from the RK04 going into the input on this, it doesn't say modulation input, this tap tempo input on this. And I think I had this set in the RK04 settings app. I think I set it to a divided by 2 division, inverted and long press or long pulse, whatever it's called. So I changed some of those settings, and I've got this thing to register it. And what's really great about that is the tempos, the repeats rather follow the tempo of the beat, which is great. So you can hear I've got a quarter note pulse. That's whatever this is, 72 BPM. Then I can go 3, 4, 1. So you see I've still got that quarter note pulse, and then it goes super high. So I think that's pretty great. The other thing, so that makes the Cusack really great for synth rigs. The other thing that's really cool about this that I like for kind of making noise is this break function, which will change the delay. Either slow it down or you can get it to speed up in response to holding down the tap speed button. And there's different settings on how it bounces back, whether you can have it drop tempo and then stay, or snap back, or slide back. So there's 3 different settings for how it resumes the tempo. which is pretty great. So this is a really fun pedal to have like on the table to kind of play with and interact with. It's great that it syncs with the tempos. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with that. The other piece of gear I have here that I think maybe people haven't seen too much is this Dado Duo. This is it's a synthesizer I bought on Kickstarter a few years ago. It's a monophonic synth. It has a pentatonic keyboard, but it does take MIDI in and out. So you could play it, you could play diatonically or whatever, chromatically. And on the back of it, on this side of it, there's the synthesizer side. So you've got, I forget what they call them, release, frequency, a waveform. You've got your resonance control here, and they've got these little percussion pads that I never use. They're fun when you're just goofing around, but when you're actually trying to keep a rhythm, like you don't want to go like this all day long. And then it's got this little simple rotary sequencer. And I might be muted. Maybe that's why he's not playing. No, I don't know why I'm not getting any sound out of this. That's unfortunate. What have I done over here? That's really strange. I'm not sure why I'm not getting any audio out of this thing.